Alright, so back into it. So we've got a clean composition now, and you can see we've got our basic background, basic layers. This is how we'd cut them up in Photoshop. So let me flip these on real quick. So here's how I broke these up. We have our background layer, we have our text layer, we have the two cut out separately, and you can see I went in here and I had to cut out those letters. I just quick grabbed this off the web, so those letters are cut out from that. And then we have our bottom flourish. I'm calling the Lord's flourish because it lands right under the word Lords of Shadow. And then the bottom C flourish, that's goes under the C there. And then we have our top flourish, which goes just above. Oops, where are you? There you go. So those are our pieces, and we're going to start by getting into these quite quickly. So there's a few different ways we're going to animate these. And the first way is simple and easy. We're going to start with the Lord's flourish. So first I'm going to say that Lord's flourish, we're going to say maybe that starts at 60 frames. So it would be 2 seconds. So that means I'm going to give a time for all of these other things to animate out before I do that Lord's flourish. So that Lord's portion is part of the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate the text, and I'm going to hide the first text, and I'm just going to call this Lord's, because we're going to mask just that portion of the text. So when I turn on this portion, this is the text. This is going to be for the Castlevania part. So then we're going to mask that off too. So now I'm on Castlevania. I'm just going to mask that off also. Simple and easy. And what this does is it basically just separates these two. So we have Lords of Shadow, and then we have Castlevania separately. So it's one text file, rather one image file, that I'm just kind of splitting up manually by using these masks. Alright, so let us carry on. So now that we've got those set up, we're going to, from 60 to 70, maybe let's just do a simple mask shape animation. So this is on the Lord's text. It's this guy right here. I'm just going to kind of do like a barn door wipe style, where we are going to just take these points here. We're maybe just going to start right here to just to the right, or sorry, to the left of that word. Let's get those, and there we go. You can see I've set that at 60 frames, the open motion at 70 frames, so it kind of just does this barn door wipe. Quick and easy. Maybe we do, I don't know, 20 frames of feathering, or 20 pixels, so it's not so rough. Right, so we see that. Not too bad. One down. Many to go. Alright, so let's move on to the big dog. Some of these text pieces. Maybe let's start with the bottom C, flourish. So that's what I'm going to call this piece right here. I'm going to call a flourish, and it's an entirely separate layer, so it makes it kind of easy. What we're going to do is we're just going to create a quick mask here to the right of it. That means since it's not within that mask, and masks are by default additive, we're not going to see it right away. But we're going to say that should animate close to the beginning. So let's start that at 10 frames. And we are going to set a keyframe for the mask path. That means we're going to animate this square so it can reveal. And then maybe at 20 frames, we'll click anywhere out in the gray. We're going to grab these two. 20 frames, we're just going to kind of roughly bring this over to the left so that it reveals that shape. It doesn't have to be super clean yet. We're just trying to get it to reveal. Not too bad. Alright, maybe again another 20 pixels of feathering just so it's not so rough and abrupt. Maybe we right click on a keyframe and use easy ease in, right, because we're going into the keyframe. See how that looks. Pretty quick, but not the worst thing I've ever seen in the world. Let's move that up to 30 frames. I'm just going to click and drag that keyframe out. That's not bad. Click anywhere in the gray down here to deselect the layer so that yellow frame isn't in your way. And we see that it works out alright. Because it's such a simple piece, we can use these very rough masks and just simple animations to get them to reveal themselves. So let's carry on, and let's continue on with maybe animating one of the other flourishes. So let's go to the, let's animate the C. So let's go back to our text. Let's turn it back on. And we are going to animate this one a little bit different way. This one's going to require the pen tool. So first, we're going to trace the letter that we're going to. I'm actually going to trace all these pieces. So we're basically creating a line that is going to be followed and filled in by an animation. So right now you can see I've traced that C with a mask, just using the pen tool. So when I pull this down, you can see I have two masks now. I have this big mask. We'll call that the outline, right? And then we will create the second mask. We'll call it the C. Actually put quotes around it so you know that it's actually a letter. Now we're going to do something a little bit unique. We're going to apply an effect. So over here in the effects panel, I've typed in the word stroke, and I want to look for this one. It's under the generate column, and it says generate stroke. We're going to apply that to that text layer. And right when I apply it, it doesn't do much of anything, at least not visibly much of anything. But if you can kind of tell, it's creating a stroke outline around that outline mask. Well, it's not quite what we want. We want to actually apply this to the C. That's where we're going to create this wacky effect. We're going to do one more thing. We're going to change the paint style from on original, which is going to, if we left it that way, that's actually creating a stroke. We're going to change it to reveal original image. And when we do that, and we deselect it, you can see something kind of wacky happen. It looks like the place where we drew, it is actually in fact revealing that original image, which is cool. But it's super, super thin by default. So if we come over here to brush size, that's where we're going to beef this up a little bit, and it should give us a much more desirable effect. Okay, and now we don't really see this pay off until we change a few key parameters. So I'm going to start my animation right about here, right as that flourish, this little flourish starts. We want that flourish to kind of carry into the motion of the C here. So I'm going to set a keyframe for my endpoint there. That's where we want it to start. The endpoint meaning the animated distance of that stroke. This being the start point, and this being the end point, because this we did first, this we did last. So we're animating that endpoint. And then I want to come up, let's just say to 30 frames. And I am going to scroll down effects, stroke, so I can look at this. And I'm going to click this little button over here to create a keyframe. So now we're still not seeing anything because we've got 100% at about 18 frames, and we've got 100% at 30 frames. So we need to change one of these basically to 0 effectively. So we go back to the first one, going to set our endpoint to 0, and as I do that, you can see that it's kind of backing off that motion. Now we're going to get something pretty cool. So I've deselected everything, backed it up, and then when I animate, you can see that that motion actually carries through. And the stroke that we've created, the animation is actually occurring along that mask that we drew. See, it's following, the part that it's revealing is following this line that we drew. And it's going from the first point that we drew to the last point. So little hooks like these, we have to make sure we get caught. And then it goes all the way to the end. So we'll come back and we'll continue forward with doing the rest of the animation.